Friday, May 12th, 2017, 12:46 p.m. At a bustling hospital in London, the rhythm of saving lives is interrupted by a sound more terrifying than a flat line. It starts with a single computer, a flicker, a freeze. Then, the screen turns a violent, blood red, a skull appears, a padlock snaps shut, and a timer begins to count down. Within minutes, it isn't just one computer. It is the entire network. MRI machines shut down mid-scan. Patient records vanish behind a wall of encryption. Ambulances carrying critical patients are forced to divert, driving aimlessly through the city because the emergency rooms cannot accept them. Doctors are running down hallways with pen and paper. The entirety of modern medicine stripped away in a heartbeat. But this isn't just happening in London. Across the ocean, in Spain, the headquarters of Telefónica, a telecommunications giant, descends into chaos. Employees are ordered to rip the cables out of their computers. In Russia, the Ministry of Interior goes dark. At FedEx in the United States, logistics grind to a halt. Germany's railway system displays the same red message on station screens, leaving thousands of passengers staring at a digital ransom note. The message is identical everywhere. Oops, your files have been encrypted. It demands $300 in Bitcoin. If you don't pay within 3 days, the price doubles. If you don't pay in 7, your data is gone forever. This was not a targeted assassination. This was a nuclear explosion in the digital realm. In less than 24 hours, 200,000 computers in 150 countries are paralyzed. The world's digital infrastructure is crumbling in real time. No one knows who launched it. No one knows how to stop it. And amidst the global panic, the fate of the internet falls onto the shoulders of a 22-year-old college dropout, sitting in his childhood bedroom in a small, sleepy town on the coast of England. He is eating a takeaway pizza, completely unaware that in the next few hours, he will accidentally save the world and then the world will destroy him. How did a piece of code bring civilization to its knees? And who is really pulling the strings? To understand the sheer magnitude of this catastrophe, we must rewind. We must look away from the flashing red screens and look into the shadows of the year leading up to the attack. The weapon used to hold the world hostage was not forged by a criminal syndicate in a basement. It was built by the United States government. For years, the National Security Agency NSA had been hoarding a secret arsenal of cyber weapons. They had discovered a flaw in the Microsoft Windows operating system, a vulnerability so deep and so fundamental that it existed in almost every computer on the planet. Instead of reporting it to Microsoft to be fixed, the NSA weaponized it. They built a tool called Eternal Blue. It was the ultimate skeleton key. With it, spies could enter any network, anywhere, undetected. It was the perfect weapon, until it was stolen. In August 2016, a mysterious group calling themselves the Shadow Brokers emerged from the dark web. They claimed to have hacked the NSA. To prove it, they dumped a sample of the agency's most powerful tools online. It was a humiliation for American intelligence, but for the cybercriminal underworld, it was Christmas. Suddenly, military-grade cyber weapons were available to anyone with an internet connection. The gun was left on the table, loaded and ready. It was only a matter of time before someone picked it up and pulled the trigger. While the geopolitical storm was brewing, Marcus Hutchins was living a quiet, almost invisible life in Devon, England. To his neighbors, he was just a young man who spent too much time in his room, surrounded by monitors and empty energy drink cans. He didn't like crowds, he didn't seek fame, but online, he was malware tech, a prodigy. Marcus had a unique talent, bordered on obsession. Since his teenage years, he had been fascinated by botnets' vast networks of infected computers. He understood the language of code better than he understood human interaction. He spent his days and nights dissecting viruses, reverse engineering them to see how they ticked. He was a white hat hacker now, working to protect systems, but he knew the dark side well. He knew how easy it was to slip into the abyss. On that Friday in May, Marcus was actually on a week off. He had planned to ignore his work, grab some lunch, and relax. But as reports began to flood, Twitter hospitals closing, banks freezing, the world panicking, his instinct took over. He went back to his room, sat down in his chair, and opened his analysis tools. He managed to get a copy of the virus. He opened the code, staring into the heart of the beast that was eating the internet. It was sophisticated, aggressive, and terrifyingly fast. It was a worm, a type of malware that spreads automatically without human interaction. As Marcus scrolled through lines of assembly code, looking for a weakness, he noticed something strange. Buried deep within the virus's logic was a reference to a specific, nonsensical domain name, a long string of random letters and numbers ending in .com. It looked like a mistake, or a trap. The virus was programmed to check if this website existed. If the website was offline, the virus would continue to spread, infecting machine after machine. Marcus paused. He typed the domain into his browser. It was unregistered. It didn't exist. On a whim, costing him $10.69, Marcus bought the domain. He didn't know why. He just wanted to track the botnet, to see where the connections were coming from. He registered the site, pointed it to a sinkhole server, and waited. He didn't realize it yet, but he had just flipped a switch. Marcus leaned back in his chair, watching the data stream in. He expected to see a map of infections, a visual representation of the digital plague spreading across the globe. He expected to see the virus bypassing his new domain and continuing its rampage. But then, something impossible happened. The graph didn't spike. It flatlined. Across the world, the reports began to change. In London, the hospital screens stopped flashing. In Madrid, the encryption process halted mid-byte. The virus was still there, sitting on the computers, but it had gone dormant. It was asleep. Marcus sat in the silence of his bedroom, the hum of his computer fans the only sound in the house. He refreshed the page. The result was the same. By registering that nonsense domain, by spending less than the cost of a lunch, he had triggered a hidden command within the code. The writers of WannaCry, whoever they were, had included a kill switch. It was likely a failsafe, a way for the virus to detect if it was being analyzed in a security sandbox. If the domain was live, the virus thought it was being watched, so it shut itself down to hide. Marcus hadn't just tracked the monster, he had killed it. But relief was quickly replaced by paranoia. He hadn't used a proxy. He had registered the domain under his real name. Within hours, the world's media, intelligence agencies, and cybersecurity firms tracked the digital footprint back to that small house in Devon. The phone began to ring, then the doorbell, then the emails. Reporters were camping on his front lawn. The Daily Mail, CNN, the BBC, they all wanted the hero who saved the internet. Marcus was thrust into a spotlight he never wanted. He was hailed as a genius, a savior. He was flown to conferences, offered jobs, and praised by politicians. For a brief moment, the narrative was perfect. The underdog had won. The quiet kid from the coast had outsmarted the shadowy architects of doomsday. But in the world of hacking, the line between a white hat and a black hat is often thinner than a razor's edge. While the world celebrated Marcus Hutchins, the hero, the FBI was looking at Marcus Hutchins, the coder. They weren't looking at what he stopped in 2017. They were looking at what he wrote in 2014. They dug into the archives of the dark web. They found traces of old code, digital fingerprints left behind by a teenager who was angry, bored, and brilliant. They found a banking Trojan named Kronos. The celebration was about to end. The hero's journey was taking a dark, sharp turn toward tragedy. August 2017, 3 months after WannaCry. The setting is Las Vegas, the city of lights, gambling, and false promises. It is the home of DEF CON, the world's largest hacker convention. Marcus is there, surrounded by his peers. He is the star of the show. People are buying him drinks, asking for selfies, patting him on the back. He feels invincible. He is 23 years old, and he has the world at his feet. The week passes in a blur of parties and neon lights. As the convention ends, Marcus heads to McCarran International Airport to fly back home to England. He is tired, hungover, and ready to get back to his quiet life. He walks through the terminal, headphones around his neck. He passes the slot machines one last time. He reaches the security line. Suddenly, he is flanked. Men in dark suits. No smiles. No autograph requests. Marcus Hutchins. Before he can answer, he is being escorted away from the gate. This isn't a random security check. This is an extraction. They take him to a sterile room. They take his phone. They take his laptop. And then, they put the handcuffs on. Marcus is confused. He thinks this is a mistake. Maybe it's for his own protection. Maybe the people behind WannaCry are coming for him. But as he sits in the interrogation room of the FBI field office, the agents don't ask him about WannaCry. They don't ask him about the North Koreans or the NSA or the kill switch. They slide a document across the table. It's an indictment. The charge is conspiracy to commit computer fraud. The evidence dates back years. They claim that long before he saved the world, Marcus Hutchins helped build a piece of malware designed to steal banking passwords. They claim that the hero who stopped the ransomware was once a merchant of digital death. The irony is suffocating. The US government, whose own leaked weapon caused the WannaCry disaster, is now prosecuting the man who stopped it not for the disaster itself, but for the sins of his youth. Marcus is thrown into a federal detention center. He is strip-searched, given an orange jumpsuit, and placed in a cell with violent offenders. The hero of the internet is now inmate number 429. He is thousands of miles from home, alone, and facing 10 years in a federal prison. The world watches in shock. The internet explodes with outrage. Free Marcus trends on Twitter, but the law is cold and binary. You are either innocent or you are guilty. There is no code for "it's complicated." While Marcus sits in his cell, staring at the concrete ceiling, the real culprits behind WannaCry are still out there, watching and likely laughing. While Marcus fought for his freedom in an American courtroom, security researchers finally traced the true origins of WannaCry. The clues didn't lead to a basement in London or a hacker collective in Russia. They led to a government building in Pyongyang, the Lazarus Group, the elite cyber warfare unit of North Korea. It was a state-sponsored attack. A regime, isolated from the global economy, had used a stolen American weapon to rob the world's banks and hospitals. It was the perfect crime. They had unleashed chaos, exposed the fragility of the West, and walked away untouched. The Lazarus hackers were ghosts. They would never be arrested. They would never stand trial. Instead, the only person in handcuffs was the one man who tried to stop it. The trial of Marcus Hutchins dragged on for 2 years. It was a battle between the letter of the law and the spirit of justice. On one side, prosecutors argued that a crime is a crime, regardless of who commits it. On the other, the defense painted a picture of a young man who had grown, who had pivoted from the darkness to the light, and who had performed a service to humanity that outweighed his past mistakes. Finally, in July 2019, the verdict arrived. Marcus stood before the judge, shaking. He had pleaded guilty to the charges related to Kronos. He accepted responsibility. He was ready to go to prison. The judge looked at him. He looked at the files. He spoke about the complexity of the digital age, about redemption, and then he delivered the sentence. Time served. No more prison. 1 year of supervised release. Marcus was free to go home. It was a mercy that is rarely seen in the federal system. It was an acknowledgement that the world is not black and white, but a billion shades of gray. Marcus walked out of the courthouse, blinking in the sunlight. He had survived the virus. He had survived the fame. He had survived the FBI. But the story of WannaCry leaves us with a haunting realization. The attack proved that our digital world is built on glass. The tools to shatter it are out there, floating in the dark web, waiting for the next angry teenager or the next rogue state to pick them up. Marcus Hutchins got lucky. He found a kill switch, But next time, there might not be a kill switch. Next time, the screen might stay red.